Peter.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's a small community. There's 250 people.
Fantastic steak from the ranch.
I grew up in suburbia, country clubs, private schools.
The tagging process.
I was a little nervous to do my technique in front of the camera, but...
What would your advice be for Californians moving into rural America?
I literally didn't understand the basic notion that cows still ate grass, you know?
We've done this for 115 years. Microsoft should ask us how to be sustainable.
I'm getting ready to walk in that place. I was really afraid of what I was going to see.
The environmental argument. I don't know much about it, but cows are terrible for the environment. A lot of methane, right?
And that's who's producing
Really?
in America, yeah.
That I would have never guessed.
Targeting the weakest source, and right now that feels like it's us.
Should I even eat meat anymore? Is it okay to eat meat?
If we don't tell our story, that means someone else tells our story. They're not going to tell it the way we want the story told.
Good morning, guys. Here in eastern Colorado, and in today's story, we're gonna meet some cowgirls and some ranchers, those who have either moved from the cities to here or grew up here, went to the cities, and came home. Now, there's more of a trend going on in the United States with people moving to rural areas. What are they finding here that they can't find in the urban areas? Why is there more of a draw to this very remote lifestyle? What can we all learn from them? Let's do this.
Branding the animal.
Uh-huh.
You want to do it real quick, and if it's a single iron, it's one thing you put on versus like some of them are like 3 letters, and you have to kind of do.
Good morning,
Lauren.
Peter.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Lauren, your story is you moved from Boulder, right?
Yes, yes.
And how'd you meet a cowboy?
I met his sister first. So his sister lives in Denver. She, a few months later said, my brother, he lives in a town of 250 people. I kind of have to meet people for him here. So, would
You
you
have
be interested?
agents. You had agents, Will, helping you out.
I went to college on the East Coast. At like 23, I moved back, or whatever age I was, moved back here. This is 1 million acres. Our county is 1 million acres, Cheyenne County in Colorado. And in those 1 million acres, there's 1,200 people. And I did like a mental math. The criteria just being 18 or 22 to 32 women and single, and there was 3 hits. And then there wasn't a computer algorithm. I like went through the phone directory, and there's 3. And the criteria being woman, 22 to 35, and single.
And all your friends probably knew them at one time.
Yeah, no, so my sister lived in Denver, and I lived in literally the bunkhouse.
Let me show you guys here out the windows. There are no houses around, and it's just ranch 365 around here.
Poor guy.
Where's he going?
He's going to Bible camp.
Okay.
Around here, you're like, all right, well, there's not many things, to enroll your kids in, but
Sure.
this is one. So
We're gonna go brand? Is that what you
we're
said?
actually going to go tag a new baby calf.
Tag.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a small community. There's 250 people in our little town. And so everybody kind of knows everyone, and you know who's teaching your kids, and it's sort of, in my opinion, it's sort of the best case scenario.
And so you can't be out of line in a town like this, right?
Right.
Because if you are, you're gonna be called out.
Correct. Because there's only 250 people,
Mm-hmm.
there's an importance to understand that we're all in it together, and we have to kind of all figure out a way to get along. What I find so neat being a mom, I know that what we value at home is going to be reflected and encouraged in the Kit Carson community.
Okay.
And in their school.
Mhm.
And I just have no worries that they are going to be good people by the time they leave this community, because they're surrounded by all these really great people. And I
Right.
think, I don't know that I necessarily had that growing up. I grew up in suburbia, country clubs, private schools. We, rode bikes around the neighborhood and stuff like that. But I think almost the bigger you get,
Mm-hmm.
so I think my 6th grade class was, I think it was actually 600 people in that class. And you can just get lost in the shuffle so quickly. And out here, no one's getting lost in the shuffle. If someone's struggling, we'll see it and the community will help.
All right, I distracted Lauren with the questions. It's the tagging process.
I almost got him. I have to hop back out again.
So it's a process.
Yeah, I mean, again, if they're younger, newer to the world, it's a lot easier, but these are a little bit older, a few hours older, so they're gonna travel. And usually what I do is I pick up the back leg, find out what the sex is of that calf, and that determines what ear this tag goes on.
Okay.
And then this number is who it belongs to.
Are they like bear and they get very protective with their...
Horses and cattle, they're a prey animal, and the way that they see the world, because they're prey, you know, is going to be very different than how we see the world, because our eyes are in the front of our heads, you know, as a predator. Their eyes are on the side so that they can scan and see where that predator might be. So understanding that what scares them and what they're noticing, shadows, you know, they might stop and look at something and be something we'd never see, but it's a shadow that they see and they don't know what it is. You know, I think a lot of people will see that with horses, where you have to sort of get them used to things so that they understand that they're not in danger.
Attempt number 3. There we go.
So this is a heifer.
Okay.
It's okay, Mama. You're okay. Uh-oh. So this is gonna go on the left ear here.
Just like an it's like an
tag fell off. Oh, here it is.
it's like an earring, basically.
It is, yes. That's a good way of saying it. It doesn't hurt at all. You got it, buddy. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Get this tag in. I'm doing it upside down, but that's okay.
And that's it.
That's it. Good job, Mama. Good job. I was tagging again.
That's stressful.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
You said 65 just calved over the hill?
It's up. The calf's up.
So that's the whole point of tagging, just so you can identification and you know what cow is what cow.
Yeah, it's a little nuanced and complex, but these are first-time moms. That is a special class of cattle. We take a little more management of them, and we gotta pay a little more attention to them. Then from their second baby on, they're completely out, and we don't do anything. So you put heifers. So a heifer is a female cow, and we go with them on the left ear, and then bulls on the right, and that's just for us. So you can see all moms, obvious females, they have it on the left, and yeah, that's the mom right there.
Okay.
So yeah, when we do these ear tags, we correspond the tag to the mom's tag, so if there's ever an issue, we have a abandoned calf, number 10, we can go find her mom, put them together, and kind of give them a second chance. I was a little nervous to do my technique on how to tag in front of the camera, but I think it's accurate, and 2, I want to, when I'm ear tagging, I want to interact with that pair as briefly and as effectively as possible. You know, these are new moms, and there's that impression phase or whatever when they're new, they're bonding, they're trying to get that. We want to come in and do a few things, so you have to balance that. Like, yeah, you're interfering with them, you're kind of causing the mom stress and maybe the calf stress. So yeah, my thought is to do as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
He just said an hour outside of the womb.
Yeah.
So the birth just happens right out here in the field?
Correct. Yep. Yep.
So you just have an eye out here, you know when this stuff's happening.
Yeah, well,
or you
we're
get lucky.
Day 25 of calving, so yeah, you kind of refine it after 25 days.
What are you smelling there?
It's the sage. I just love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It smells so good.
It almost smells like rosemary.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Uh-huh. I definitely see that.
Lauren has purged her house, burning the sage.
You burn it?
I do a little, I'm
You said you're
Cowboy cross.
You're an ex-hippie, or you still have the hippie in you?
Still got the hippie in me. I do a little.
I think it's on
safe-
resurgence of late.
Yeah.
It was like dwindling, and now.
Has it gotten into you, Will?
Oh no.
No? Hasn't made it
I'm a
through?
lost cause, like.
So tell me ranching philosophy out here. This is all your ranch?
There's a creek bottom down here. I don't know if you can really distinguish that, but that's kind of a border, and then south of there are some neighbors. But in essence, though, there are some things I'd point out that are on the neighbors. But we've been out here since 1907 on the same ground and interacting with it. And kind of our fundamental thing is this prairie, these grasslands, this ecosystem evolved, from my understanding and kind of our belief, through the bison, migratory path of the bison, how they did it for eons, and kind of through predation, be it wolves or coyotes or whatever was chasing them. Bison got really tight in the herd, and yeah, anything that strayed from the herd got picked off by the predator. So it was reinforced to stay in a tight herd, and you know, supposedly those were up to 1 million head in a herd, and they would migrate through and hit this prairie, graze off of it, and then keep moving on, because A, they would eat all the grass, and then B, the predators were coming, so they were migratory. They'd hit something really hard and move on, and that's how the grasslands evolved, and the kind of the systems they play off were based on that interaction of intense grazing, urine, manure spread, hoof impact, breaking in the old decaying grass into the ground, and stuff like that. So our ranch's philosophy is mimic nature, work with nature, get back to the natural way of doing it. And we're, capitalists. We're doing that, for a financially stable business. We appreciate and like the ecological, the green ramifications of it, but I take a lot of pride, or we take a lot of pride that we're coming from it from running a business.
It just blew my mind, here I am like sitting in Boulder, and I am having this experience of contemplating, like, should I even eat meat anymore? Is it okay to eat meat? I'm hearing about all this animal cruelty, and hearing about how animals are now being raised in factories, and I just thought, well, I don't want to contribute to something that's causing harm. And I meet my husband, well, not husband yet, but we're dating at the time, and I come out here, and it was just like, wait, cowboys still exist? This way of life is still real. Like, there are cows on grass. Like, I literally didn't understand the basic notion that cows still ate grass, You
were that detached?
That detached, yeah. And I think the information I was receiving or reading painted a picture that our food system was no longer connected to nature in any way. It was no longer connected to the natural world. It was done in these smokestack buildings.
Okay.
And so it blew my mind coming out here. It turned my world upside down, and really it became something where I understood that I wanted to start questioning everything that I read, and understood that there's no way for me to understand something unless I live it, unless I am in it, unless this is my day-to-day life. And
you didn't turn vegetarian?
I did not. No, I came to the ranch, and
would that have been tough, Will, if your wife turned vegetarian? Or?
I would have disagreed with the lifestyle choice, but my brother, he's married a vegetarian, and she's our CFO, and
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna meet her?
She won't be here, no.
Okay. But it's interesting, the food thing, like anti-meat, but then nice leather couches and nice leather purses.
Right.
So where's the connection in that? You think it's just that disconnected, the thought, like you didn't think they ate grass anymore? People aren't understanding that's actually leather from a cow?
Right, yeah. I mean, a couple generations ago, people had grandparents or uncles or somebody who ranched or farmed. And now we're in a place where the majority of people don't have any connection to agriculture, the day in and day out life. They don't have that human face that they can say, well, I know them, and if I know them, I know I can trust. I have a certain level of trust in how my food is being made.
I drove by a ranch yesterday. I don't even know what you call it. This is what people think a lot of times. It was just thousands of cows packed in.
Feed yard.
It's a feed yard.
Yeah.
This is a simplification of the cattle industry, the beef industry in the United States. There's three elements. There's the rancher, the producer that have the mama cows and have the babies. We'll call those the ranchers.
That's you guys.
Yep. And then there's the feed yard, which is, confined feeding, and that's where you finish your meat. And then there's the packers, the slaughterhouse. The cows in the United States are born out on grass, and the mother cows live their lives out on grass, be it in Missouri, Florida, Montana, Texas, Colorado. Each spring, we'll say, they have their babies. Half of them are girls, half of them are boys. That baby lives on the ranch. They go through the first summer with their mom. The first winter, they get weaned. The next summer, they go out on grass as a teenager. And about 20 months of age, they enter into a feed yard and get finished for 5 months, get them all fattened up, good marbling, then they go to the packing plant and get killed at 25 months of age.
So they're living their best lives here.
Yeah. I think it's a very natural life. This is how cows were developed. This is they're out there day to day. They're grazing on grass. They're moving to new pasture. They're not interacting with men, humans. They're just kind of with their mom doing the natural thing.
Will took me to tour one of the biggest packers here in Colorado. I think they process like 3,000 animals a day. Like it's a big processing facility. And, I'm getting ready to walk in that place and I'm thinking, is this gonna be the experience I have in the beef industry where I can no longer support what is going on here? I was really afraid of what I was going to see. We walked to the door, this bright, young girl greets us and she's like, well, come on in, we're excited you guys are here. And it was that feeling of it wasn't corporate, it felt the relational family, and anyways, they weren't hiding anything and they took us through the whole facility from, I think we started at where the meat is frozen and heads frozen or cool or refrigerated and heads into grocery stores. Okay. And we went all the way, worked our way back up to the kill floor. The whole entire time, my objective was to see how are the animals treated. What I cared about more than anything was, does this feel right? Is this moral?
Yeah.
And what I walked away with was I could not figure out another way besides killing an animal out on the field and harvesting it right here. I couldn't find another way that I thought was more respectful of the animal. And I didn't see any suffering. I didn't see anything that I felt was wrong or immoral about it. But it hits you in the face. It's death. It's absolutely death, and it's death on a large scale. And I think for me, my biggest takeaway, what hit me over the head so hard, was food waste. Food waste now to me is just criminal. I think a lot of people don't realize that families are still raising their food. I think that has been completely lost from the conversation. And I think it's 95 or 97% of farms and ranches are family owned. And that's who's producing food in America. Yeah.
That I would have never guessed.
Yeah. And I think that's what has gotten confused in the conversation. And there's not faces like us.
We have abundance of grass, and then water is a limiting factor. I think studies are cows can, effectively graze about a mile, probably more accurately a half mile from a water source. It's called a bullseye effect, where close to the water sources, they'll degrade the ground, they'll overgraze it. They're lazy animals, or just as lazy as humans, and we built a lot of water infrastructure. So any square foot of our grass has something on it 5-7 days a year. And from that, you get intense utilization 5 days of the year, then they have 360 days of rest. And that lets root systems get vitalized, mineral cycles to go, the soil health to get going, and all these ecological benefits.
I just noticed there is a bird that flew away from the grass, and usually it means there's some eggs. I don't know what kind of bird that is.
That's how we think of holism. It's holistic ranch management or something like that. It's the genetics of your cows, the community your ranch, your family lives in, how your family gets along living in the middle of nowhere, the grass, the soil health, the water, you bring it all in together, and that's the final scorecard. If you have a lot of cool season grasses and warm season grasses, and if the migratory birds are here, and the deer population is healthy, and you're running a
the cattle, and they're doing well, they're breeding back, and you know, all that's coming in, the family's getting along well, and you know, your community's doing well. You know, if you get kind of that holistic equilibrium or thrivingness, then I think you're kind of going in the right direction, and things are kind of in a sustainable.
Is it pretty hard to get?
Oh, very hard to get, and I don't think we've got it, and I think the other story is once you get it in
Then it's
that
gone.
1 year, yeah, it doesn't mean it stays forever. It could be gone.
Will, what are you cooking up here?
Got some flank steak and French fries. I mean, these are home raised, so we'll have to see how.
It's from one of the cows out there. Nice.
And then this would be all grass fed. So yeah, this is from an old cow. It spent every day of its life out on grass like this.
Right.
And
Right out there.
and you know, most, like if you go to a steakhouse and get a prime steak, that animal's like 30 days old and finished on grain, unless it says it's grass fed, and then it's grass fed. But like Kobe beef is like grain finished on steroids. So most people think grain or high, you know, fat, it gets intermuscular fat, it gets a lot of flavor and stuff like that.
Right.
Where grass fed is probably a little more lean and less of that.
That's a nice medium rare, fair to say.
That's what I was shooting for.
Pretty much everyone's doing the ranching thing out in these parts, or a lot of them, a lot of people.
Yeah, ranching, dryland farm.
These are your daughters here.
Yep.
So grew up helping you ranch,
Yep.
but you moved out, or you live here?
Currently in college right now. I go to CU Boulder, so
Okay.
I'll be a senior there. So
Okay.
a little different than Kit Carson.
Okay,
I'm
how's
sure.
that been, coming from here going to there? Do they understand where you're from, or you have to explain a lot, or how does that work?
It's funny because like when we compare like class sizes at college, no one really believes I only had 8 people graduating from my high school, but I think they don't really comprehend what it's like to live out here. Or even when they ask me like what's the closest Starbucks, and I say like an hour and 45 minutes away, I think it's really hard for them to like believe that we spent 18 years of life living here without a Starbucks to run
But
to.
working on the ranch too.
Yeah.
People have a hard time understanding, like you're saying. Is that a big problem right now? Like the coasts, let's say New York's, LA's, it's a totally different universe. That's what I feel, at least driving out here. It's like it's actually almost refreshing in a way, because it feels very, people look you in the eye, they shake your hand. It seems like the word is the word, but I don't know, I'm a newbie.
Yeah.
I'm in the honeymoon period, it all sounds good.
Well, I think all these guys, they were all encouraged by their parents, and our kids are encouraged to go try, do something else.
Okay.
And then come back. You know, Will studied abroad in China. And,
Really? I didn't know that.
and Charlie in Belgium, and, you know, go out, go to a college, get out, see something, do something else, and then come back and apply those skills here.
Okay.
You know, ideally, whereas you don't really have anyone in the city saying, hey, I'm going to go spend some time in rural America and then come back. You know, it doesn't work both ways. It's not set up to work both ways.
So there's a lot in the States, especially with COVID. People are moving from urban areas to rural areas. I see it all over this trip, starting in West Texas, up through New Mexico, Colorado. I don't think you have many people moving out here, but what would your advice be for, let's just use the stereotype. What would your advice be for Californians moving into rural America?
It sucks. We don't want the California. No, and I think that is happening, the urban to rural, but what it is happening is like sexy rural. You know, the Montana with the mountains in the background, or the fly fishing stream. Unsexy rural, you know, here or Panhandle of Texas, or you know, flat, dry places. It's not getting that. You know, it is not getting. And to an extent, we need it. And you know, Amy has done a lot of fantastic work on kind of the economic development out here. We need people out here. I think when our dad graduated in 1978 from this school, there was like 90 kids in high school. When I graduated, there's 26 kids in high school. And I mean, that just makes our, you know, it's hard to have sports teams. It's, you know, there's no services. All the businesses in town shut down.
So you guys want people coming
We
out?
want, yeah, to an extent. We don't want to become, we don't want a Walmart popping up tomorrow, but yeah, we would like some growth.
And just little pause here on the steak. Fantastic steak. Cooked to perfection from the ranch.
Yeah.
I was in Rocky Mountain, Colorado, let's call it, southern the Rockies. I don't know the town. And when I said I was coming out here, there was like this pessimistic, You're almost in Kansas. Ugh.
Yeah.
There's like this judgmental type look, and I'm sure they've never been out here or really are interested, but.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I probably grew up being that I was in, Denver area, and then I spent a lot of time in the mountains. I probably had that elitism, and I probably said so many things my whole life that was like, oh yeah, it's just Kansas out there. It's nothing out there. It's boring out there. The real Colorado is the mountains. I definitely said that, felt that. And it's funny because now I just love this landscape more than any landscape I've lived at. I've lived in. It's so unique and it's so beautiful, and it does feel like this secret that I'm like, I don't really know if I want it to get out. This is so great.
So you're now the person you used to sort of judge.
Oh yeah.
That mentality is only further ostracizes us and only further.
What mentality?
Just leave us alone. We don't want anything to do with the rest of the world. Well, then they're not going to want anything to do with us, and we're just going to get stepped on harder and harder. I mean, we have to reach out to the urban community and try to break down that divide. Because we're proud of our lifestyle. We're proud of how we raise animals. We're proud of our communities. We gotta, announce that and broadcast that, or we're just gonna get, more in our bubble. And the way some people say, if we don't tell our story, that means someone else tells our story, and they're not gonna tell it the way we want the story told. So I think our industry and our communities have to do a better job of telling our story rather than wait for someone else to do it.
And I don't think it's storytelling in the sense I think transparency is the answer. I don't think we need to bubble package what we're doing in a specific way. I think literally we're not ashamed of anything, and I don't think there's really much to be ashamed of. We just need to give transparency and give understanding. And yeah, I think what Charlie's kind of saying is, the ranching community, the people that have evolved out here, we are like, hey, we won't bother you. You do what you want to do. And so we have that precursor kind of approach of I'm not worried about you, so you guys probably aren't worried about me. And I think that has hurt our industry because, then stories are telling that, factory farmers and cows that are in cages and all this stuff, and there's no accuracy to that. And our industry just needs to get more, like Charlie says, not passive reactive, but, get out there in front of it and give our story or open up our books and show the transparency. I don't think we have to manufacture a story. And I think just from that simple thing, there'll be a lot of the gap will be bridged. And then there's probably things that we do need to do better as an industry and as our practices. And I think the world now understands that, back in the day, if some hillbilly went out and broke up farm ground in the panhandle of Oklahoma and caused a dust bowl, well, he could do it, but there is interconnectivity. Is there a carbon sink out here? Is there great? Now, what the ranchers are doing might impact people's livelihood in China or anywhere else from a climate change. There is that interconnectivity.
Mm-hmm. So what about the environmental argument? I don't know much about it, but cows are terrible for the environment. A lot of methane, right? Isn't that the argument?
Yeah. I don't know the science behind it. I think my position is buffalo were out here doing the same thing a long time ago.
There were more buffalo before Europeans showed up to the United States than there are cows now.
Yeah.
So that alone makes it pretty illogical that there's this great methane problem.
Yeah, because methane has a life or a half-life, I think, of 30 years or something like that. So it is a more powerful greenhouse gas, but from what I understand is that in 30 years that has been broken down out of the our atmosphere. Whereas, and it's also, as Charlie was saying with the bison, I mean, this is part of a cycle, whereas fossil fuels are coming out of the ground and being, that's not a cycle. This is, their manure, how they impact the grasses. That methane is part of a whole ecological cycle that is supposed to be here. And again, it's natural, and I think that's what is being missed from the conversation, is this is part of the cycle, because actually grain-finished animals produce less methane than grass. Grass is that ruminant, that chemical process in their stomach creates methane from grass. So it is, it's the way it's meant to be.
And what I'm not a scientist, it's hard to, and that's a very scientific topic. Yeah. I think our industry scientists would, kick the crap out of the environmental scientists in a debate about it. I can't have that debate, but what I can do is, like Will said, transparency, bring people out here. I don't think I've ever had someone come out here, and we've brought, our sister's friends from Princeton and, friends from all over. I don't think anyone's ever come out here for 2 days, spent real time on the ranch and then concluded at the end of it, oh my God, this is horrible for the environment. I think if we just get them out here and show them what we're doing,
right.
I think it speaks for itself.
Your connection with the cows and the land, I think that's something that goes overlooked a lot of times. Like maybe it's looked at as like this savage relationship where you're just like killing a bunch of cows, but no, it's a lifestyle. And I've seen it in my last couple of weeks from West Texas all the way up to here. It's an identity too. It's like what people do. And then you realize how much people are caring for the animals and the land because that is what gives them prosperity. That's what I've seen, at least. I'm sure there are hacks out here doing it terribly. That's just humanity and everything, right? But that goes overlooked, I think.
I mean, should we, who are doing this, we've done this for 115 years and five dinner generations. I mean, that's sustainability. I mean, I think, Microsoft should ask us how to be sustainable, not us, listen to them, because we've proven it.
You have a longer track record.
Right, exactly.
In pretty much everything.
And I think there's a lot of hope for the future in terms of ranching, because I think the typical rancher, my husband's probably a good example of this, not being here today, doesn't want to talk about what he does. Doesn't want to say, hey, look at me. And I'm not saying these kids do, but these kids get that social media or, putting yourself out there is the only way we're going to break that divide and say, and I'm not trying to criticize my husband because I get it, but I do think that, like Haley would tell us how when she would first show up at CU and talk to people about ranching, just the paradigms that people have about who we are out here or what we do. Like, it's crazy. We are not getting the word out there. And
so they had a very negative image, right? Or
yeah, totally. And it was funny because we, there's talks about racism at CU, and we sit down and we have conversations. But then suddenly when they make fun of my high school friends for being like uneducated rednecks, there's not, like, to me that's being prejudiced towards like our people. Debates aren't really had because you're either offending someone, or if you have this opinion that's different from the majority, then you could be like punished whether your teacher doesn't agree with what you're saying or something like that. And so that's what's hard, is like there's a fine line of raising your voice and bringing things to attention, but also being thought of as like a redneck, or like being ostracized in a sense because no one wants to listen to you if you have an opposing belief, whether that's with politics or ranching specifically, because in a lot of people's minds, like killing cows, they think that's all we do, and they think we're killing the environment, and so that's really hard too, especially.
But are they using any products from cows?
Exactly, they totally are, and they they'll take a plane ride to California 3 times in a month, and that's totally fine for the environment. But like here, creating an ecosystem where the birds are surviving and the deer and the antelope along with the cattle, what we're doing is so much worse than that. And so I think it's hard.
And nail polish too, right?
yeah, because that has cow products.
That has cow products.
Yeah.
I just learned that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I went to university, it was all about being like bringing the different argument to the table. You have a thesis, you back it up with evidence, and basically it's the shakeout of ideas, and whoever's doing it the best, like has the best research and the most credible argument wins, right? And everyone was a judge of that, and that was how we were taught. It was critical thinking, and so now they're not really embracing that.
Yeah, I would say not embracing that, but also I'm probably the only rancher or 5th generation, especially at CU. So it's harder too when there's been misinformation put out there about ranches. And so that's why, it is important for us to step up and correct some of that misinformation that gets out, because when I'm 1 against 30 in the classroom, my credibility goes down. And so I think getting people to correct those sources or fix that information so I can be better equipped, and then having more support behind me. So maybe
why aren't they intellectually curious, do you think? Even the professors, you say, that want to keep you sort of in the narrative, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I think probably.
Is it just they're scared or?
Well, I don't know if it's, climate change. If there's an issue going on, it's easier to target like the weakest source. And so nobody wants to give up driving or flying or our fossil fuels.
Good
And
point.
so they don't know what this life is like. They think they can find substitutes like fake meat, and they believe that's healthier for them, even though like it really isn't. And so I think targeting the weakest source, and right now that feels like it's us.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 generations, 115 years. What are the differences that your great grandparents had running the ranch versus what you guys have? Obviously you weren't around, but
Well,
what
one
do
of
you
the
think?
biggest differences is like I can go out and feed 400 cows by myself. And back in the day, it was a team of horses and the hay wagon
cowboys.
and however many.
5 cowboys.
So I think that's also the problem with rural America. And our banker once said it took 6,000 acres, it took 500 acres to run. Back in the 60s, you needed 500 acres to sustain your family. And now it's 6,000 acres. So like rural America is more efficient in how we run our ranches and our farms, and then we need less people, and then now we also need more acres to sustain our families. So you can see why the population's just.
What would you guys do? Say you had to do something else. Could you imagine doing something else? I see you in a corporate job at the office.
Well, kind of like
Not a waiter.
Not a waiter.
Maybe a busboy.
Yeah, dishwasher, you're good.
He loves it.
kind of like Amy was talking about Haley. Like, we went out and saw a little bit of the world at college and stuff. And I think what the comfort I get from that is like coming back now is out of choice. Like, yeah, if I stayed here and was always sheltered here and was scared of the big world and stayed here at 18 and, fell into what I'm doing right now, maybe at 40 or maybe at 35, I'd been like, is there something else I should have been done? Did I sell myself short? But because I went out for college and got some experiences, I wanted to come back, and I see it was a choice out of a power position of options.
But wouldn't you feel pressure? I mean, 5 generations deep, if you stop that lineage.
I think everybody would have a different answer to that. To me, I honestly can't say I feel pressure. I actually feel privileged. Like in the ranching world, to be in my position, it took 5 generations. There was depressions, there was wars, there was droughts, there was financial. Like to put our generation in the position we are is, in my mind, just an amazing blessing.
It was a requirement. You were going to get the hell out of here. You were going to leave the ranch. You were going to go do something else, see something else. And if you choose to come back, you were choosing to come back. And you're not choosing that out of necessity, but out of a desire. And I mean, I even had a fight with my dad when I finished college. I was like, I'm coming home. This is what I want to do. And he's like, you're not welcome to come home at this point. You need to do something else. You need to see something else. And, once you're ready, then you can come back. And I think that's very unique, because I think a lot of the industry, it's not only expected of you, it's like required. Hey, you were taking this on
Right.
after me. And, I think your perspective is a lot better when it's, not a necessity, but a desire.
That's your tip to other ranching families out there.
We sure think that's very valuable. Yeah, to get different perspective on life and try something different.
All right, guys, thanks for coming along. Always interesting to sit on a dining room conversation. I think it's very natural to listen to people in those environments. Hope you got something out of that. For those of us that don't live in this part of the country, out on a ranch, living close to the land, well, there's something to learn from people that do. So take that for what it is. Ask questions, watch other content. I think the point and the goal right now is mutual respect and to understand where people are coming from. Thanks for coming along. Until the next one.